What is going on, everybody? You are back on another edition of Ballin Over Beers. I am Justin Dueppengiesser, and I am joined, as always, by my guy, James Fitch. Before we bring James in here, make sure you're smashing the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. And I guess the question of the week that I want you to answer is, are you playing the Dallas stack, or do you think it's going to be too chalky? And that's right where I'm going to start with you, James. What's up, bud?
Not too much, man. Ready for another week of building lineups.
What do you think, Dallas? We were talking a little off air. It kind of seems like it's the piece of the puzzle that you got to answer this week to kind of unlock all the DFS stuff.
Yeah, I think so. That's a game that most people are going to look at. There's two ways to go, right? You go the Dallas route and you find ways to be different, whether that's, we were talking about like super stacking it and just throwing all the wide receivers in there, or throwing Zeke in. I think that's a way to be a little bit different. Or you go on the other side. I think that's where I'm going to lean, is stacking the Chargers with Herbert, Williams, Allen, Eckler, whatever you want to do on that side. I think it gives you the opportunity to get a piece of that Dallas coming back to, if you want to throw a couple of receivers in. I think that game has the highest total as of right now in the week. So I think you can't really go wrong with either of those. I do think Dallas is going to be probably overweight, but it's hard to turn that down. The pricing is so good.
It really is. That's what makes it even more difficult. Before we keep jumping into this week 2 action, just any general thoughts you kind of brought away from the first week? I thought it was, I mean, you pretty much had to have the Chiefs double stack, with Hill and Kelsey, even though they were so expensive. But man, they just perform. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that seemed to be, I think everyone was worried about that being too chalky or too obvious. But that seemed to be the way you had to go there.
Yep.
Having a lot of options at 3,000 for receiver made it tough. It was nice to have that, but it was tough because you had to figure out which one to play and which one to hit. So there's a lot of cheap options there, which made kind of playing the Chiefs super stack, playing up for that, it made it a little bit easier to do. But I had a lineup that was built that way, but I basically bricked all of the other pieces in that lineup, so it didn't really do much, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched the show last week or read the article that I had out on Borderfield, I said that the Chiefs were going to be a priority, and I turned out to be right about that part. But just like you, James, I threw a big old air ball up on the rest of the lineup. My bring back was Donovan Peoples-Jones, and it ended up being you needed, Anthony Schwartz, I guess, if you wanted to bring a receiver, or even just Landry. But really, the bring back was the run game, right? Nick Chubb did all the damage, kind of, it seemed like. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out this week. So let's take a look at it. We're going to start right with quarterbacks. And right up top, Kyler Murray coming off of an awesome performance, $8,200. Then you got Russell Wilson at $7,500 and Josh Allen at $7,200. James, for these guys above $7,000, do you have any preference? Because I think for me, I kind of like Kyler, even though his price is so high.
Yeah, it's tough to turn him down with his, just his high floor, his rushing capability, a Minnesota defense that's not that great. I think that's going to be a good game to target. You're going to have to find ways to get creative and pay down in other places, whether that's the defense, the tight end, look at some of the cheaper wide receivers, but I think that's certainly a fine play.
Absolutely. Are you looking, because I kind of like Russ in this spot too against the Titans, who we just saw throw an absolute dud up in that first week against those Cardinals. That might be, Lockett was the guy last week. The tough part about figuring out the Seahawks is it going to be a DK week, or is it going to be a Lockett week? Because they never seem to go off at the same week.
No, and Lockett's cheaper than Metcalf this week. I feel like it's a good week to pivot off of Lockett and switch to DK. It just feels like that's kind of how it works. I think the other tough part about that game too is if you're going to bring it back, who are you going with? Are you going to look at Derrick Henry, who had a down week last week? Same with Julio Jones, and really none of the Titans really produced numbers last week. So, if you're looking to run it back with a player, who are you thinking, or who are you looking at in that matchup?
I kind of like the idea of Derrick Henry because he did kind of throw up that dud of a game, and I wonder if people will get off of him, and especially at that price tag. You know what I mean? So he's up there in price. If people are going to lean away from him, I mean, he's still Derrick Henry. It's still the Titans' offense. I think that you can have the Titans score points through the ground, kind of like you saw with the Chiefs Browns, right? The Browns scored all the points on the ground early. Maybe the Titans do that with Derrick Henry, and then the bring back is the Seahawks offense, where you're getting.
Yeah, I think in a matchup like that, I know, the strategy is to kind of double stack, the Wilson, Lockett, Metcalf. That may be a matchup where I kind of get away from that a little bit. And I'm on Wilson, I'm on DK, and I'm bringing it back with Henry, and then kind of spreading it out with other games too. There's a lot of decent mid-range wide receivers and running backs to look at. So that may be a strategy I employ this week.
I like that. I like that quite a bit. And I guess the last thing I'll ask you is Josh Allen coming off of a tough matchup with a really good Steelers defense who looked really good. Bill's offense did not look like it was clicking on all cylinders. Sorry to say it there, James, but they just definitely didn't seem like they were the Bills of last year. And part of that is it's week one. Part of that is it's the Steelers. Josh Allen in this matchup against the Dolphins, he's kind of torn the Dolphins up over the past few years. So are you liking Allen in a bounce back spot this week, or?
I do. I think this game is going to be one of those games that I think people probably feel a little burned by Allen and the Bills offense. So I think there's some value in this one. I'm definitely going to I'm building 21 lineups this week. So all of these guys at the top, I'm going to say, yes, I'm building lineups with them. I'll probably be a little bit underweight, with Allen and the Bills stack, but it's going to be Allen and it's going to be Diggs. And then we'll find Cole Beasley. I think he's around like 4,600. So I think he's a fine play to get a cheaper receiver in there. And on the flip side, Will Fuller's coming back from suspension. I want to get him into a lineup. I wonder if there are going to be a lot of people that just kind of forget about him and don't really remember that he's coming back. I think he's a great play to play in this lineup, bringing it back. So definitely gonna build a lineup there. I think it's kind of on a lower total too. It's not terribly low, but I think it's at 47.5, 48. So I think those games, we haven't really talked about strat. I think a lot of people just want to defer to playing the games that are above 50, 52. And I think there's value in playing games with totals that are between 47 and 49. Last week we saw, I think it was the Bengals and Vikings. If you did a stack there with the Bengals side and bring it back with some Vikings, there's a lot of value there in those mid total games. So I think that's going to be a strategy I look at this week too. So I think the Allen Bills Miami game is going to be a good one.
Very nice. Going down in price, Tom Brady's next at $6,900. Dak is 68. Herbert is 67. And that goes all the way down in the 6,000 to Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence in the $6,000, with a couple other guys sprinkled in there from Hurts to Kirk Cousins, Tannehill, Stafford, all those guys. What is your thought on this range? Because this is actually, to me, a super, super interesting range. You got guys like Hurts and Stafford who are nice prices at 64, 65. We mentioned that Dak is 68 and you like Herbert at 67. And then you got Brady, who people are just seeming to kind of forget about already, that on Thursday night just was completely lights out and tore up the Cowboys defense, had 50 pass attempts, had almost 380 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. And it looks like he's going against a Atlanta's team that is just looked terrible in the first week. This is going to be a super interesting range that I think could decide the week. For a lot of people, of what do you do in this $6,000 range?
Yeah, I like all those guys. It's tough to really choose. Brady is he's in a plus matchup against Atlanta. I think they're 12.5-point favorites right now. So
yeah.
I think the tough part about just playing Brady is if you're going to stack him, similar with Dallas, right? Who are you picking? You've got Mike Evans, you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Antonio Brown, who are all priced reasonably. I think they're all in the low to mid sixes this week. So again, you got to figure out which guy to put in. I like Evans on the lower end because I don't think he's going to be played heavily based on the results he had last week. But yeah, definitely a game I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I think that in this $6,000 range, I think, it's tough to get away from the Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys stack because we mentioned how cheap they were already. But I really like the Jalen Hurts and I like the Matt Stafford kind of look right there. It's a pretty good game totals for both San Francisco and Phillies at like 50. San Fran's a 3.5 point favorite. We saw Philadelphia look pretty good last week. Devonta Smith is a nice stacking option there. Even Jalen Reagor, who had a nice touchdown on the screen. So I like that. And with the Rams, they're going against a Colts team who just looks not very good against the pass. And we've kind of seen that the Rams, it seems like, kind of want to unleash Stafford a little bit with McVay, and Cooper Kupp is a great stacking option. So I kind of like those two. I guess if I had to choose, I don't know how you get away from the Dallas and Herbert stacks, but I think that you can't go wrong with a Stafford, Hurts, or even a Tom Brady, like you mentioned.
Yeah, if I'm doing, I'll probably do a 20 max, and then I'll probably enter a 3 max. When I'm looking at the 3 max, I'm probably going to have a Cowboy stack in there. I'm going to have a Charger stack in there, and then it's kind of that third stack that I'm going to decide. It's either going to be a Tom Brady or it's going to be like a Jalen Hurts stack for my third lineup there. But it's tough to pass on that Cowboys Chargers game. Again, we talked about it's going to be pretty common. I think there's more advantage to going the Chargers side. It's going to be, I think, less popular. And then, figuring out where to go from there and just how do you fill your lineup to be creative, I think is kind of it's going to be what sets you apart from the rest of the competition this week.
Yeah, it's a 55.5 game point total right now, which is just so huge. So you gotta kind of, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I'm trying to think of ways to talk myself out of it, and I can't. I don't know if I want to. I don't know why I would, really, to be honest with you, because since Dak Prescott's been in since last year, his last like 5 or 6 games are just absolute bananas, just go bonkers. So
I don't see this game. Every now and then there's that game that's 50, 52, 53 total that ends up finishing 20-13, and like it's not going to happen this week, not this game. So Dak would have to get hurt again. Obviously we'd hate to see that, but we're not counting on that to happen. So
yeah,
I think this game could easily be a 70-point game. I'm not going to bet the over at 55. That's just too rich for me, but this could easily be a 70+ point game. So, it's hard to, I just have this feeling that if you pass this game, it's going to be like last week where everyone kind of passed on that Chiefs super stack or double stack where it just seemed too obvious to play it. So you didn't. And I just feel like that's going to happen with this game.
Just completely galaxy brain yourself out of it. Just find reasons not to play it when it's just the best play on the board.
Yeah. And I'm not looking at any quarterbacks after Stafford, anything below 6,400. I don't think I'm even going to touch it.
I don't think I will, but if I had to look at somebody, I think it'd be that Matt Ryan. I was on the Falcons in Ridley and Pitts stack before the season. I think that they're going to be good plays. I think they're going to throw a ton. I think they're going to be down a ton in this Bucs game. The Bucs have the best run defense. I mean, we just watched them against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys didn't even really think about handing the ball off. I think that they could do that this week too. And I guess if it's a way that the Bucs end up being really popular, you can always go Ryan Ridley Pitts and run it back with like a Chris Godwin to get differentiate from that game and get a piece of it. So I think below 6,000, that's the only place I would probably even look. Let's look at running backs next. So running backs, this is just, I don't know if I've ever seen a price this high on DFS, and it's Christian McCaffrey, obviously, but he's $9,900 to start us off. And then the only one else above 9,000 is Dalvin Cook at 9,100. Kamara's 88. Derrick Henry is 83. So even those prices are they seem to be kind of super spread out. At the top, I guess the question is there any way you can even jam Christian McCaffrey in at that price? Like And the thing is, it's almost like he's worth it. Like the amount of targets and carries he gets, like when's the last time we've seen this kind of volume out of a running back? Like maybe Le'Veon Bell for a while with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Other than Christian McCaffrey when he was healthy 2 or 3 years ago.
So he finished as the RB1 on the week without a touchdown. Do you know the last person to do that?
No.
Christian McCaffrey.
that's
20. I think it was 2019. So he's done it twice. He's finished as the overall RB1 on the week without a touchdown. I think you can get him in. I was just running an optimizer, and I'm really high on Nick Chubb this week. So I'm trying to build lineups around like this. This is probably more of a cash build, but like McCaffrey, Chubb, and just kind of running it based on that. And you can get a decent lineup with Keenan Allen and Tom Brady in there. You're paying down a little bit some of the other wide receivers, but I think you can get a decent lineup. Obviously, there's not much correlation here, so that's why I think it's probably more of a cash lineup. But I think there are ways to get creative and with decent options at quarterback that are in the mid sixes. Yep. I think there's definitely ways to build lineups around McCaffrey this week, and he's definitely a guy that's got to be priced in the 10,000s before I would think. Like maybe not last season because he didn't play enough, but the season before, I feel like he's got to be a guy that approaches that figure. But I don't know. You've played more DraftKings than I have, so maybe they don't go that high usually.
I honestly can't remember. I'm sure he probably had to have, but it's just so far back I can't think. And like you said, last year he hurt so much, I don't think that he ever did get there. But yeah. I mean, if he keeps this pace up, he's gonna be there before not. So because he's just too good. He gets so much volume, it's crazy. So Chubb is at $7,800. You mentioned him, and then you go down at $7,300. Eckler $72. Jonathan Taylor $7,000. Joe Mixon coming off of a big carry game. Any other plays other than Chubb and McCaffrey from this $7,000 and up range?
I'm probably going to stay away from Eckler. Any concerns from you with him not getting a single target last week? Like, I just feel like Herbert is not the type of quarterback that is high on just dumping the ball off to the running back. And I feel like that hurts. I feel like what we're going to see this year is Eckler maybe not catch as many passes, but he's going to score more rushing touchdowns. He had never exceeded more than 6 rushing touchdowns. And I think we're going to see him, exceed that. But I don't know. I'm a little concerned about his receiving upside this year.
It's like the complete opposite game than you usually get from him, right? Like he had 15 carries. He had the goal line work, but he had no targets, which is just like not a Christian or an Austin Eckler game. Like that's just not what he does usually. So it is a little odd in that sense. I think that, maybe we wait and see kind of what happens this week with him. But I mean, if the trend continues, that is definitely something to be aware of. And, if he's not going to get those targets a game, he's not going to get, 20, 25 carries a game either. So like his touches are going to be down. I'm with you. I'm off of him this week. I don't mind Jonathan Taylor in his spot with the Rams. He had 17 attempts and 7 targets last week, which was really awesome to see. Obviously, just kind of at his price and getting that kind of volume is great. I think I'm going to fade Joe Mixon after his week. I think that he might be kind of popular, but he also had 29 carries and 4 targets to kind of have the week that he did. So I'm off of him there. If you keep going down below $7,000, Miles Sanders $6,900, James Robinson $64, Najee $63, Zeke $62, David Montgomery $61, Chris Carson $61, and Josh Jacobs $6,000. I like Zeke as a ancillary play, kind of a differentiating play from all those Cowboys wide receivers and quarterbacks. But I think my 2 favorite plays in this range are Najee Harris, who played every single snap against Buffalo, and I think Chris Carson in that Seattle game. We talked about the receivers and the quarterbacks there, but I think Chris Carson could be a pretty sneaky play. He had another 16 carries, almost 100 yards, and 3 targets last week. So,
and he's hurt too.
What's that?
Penny has been ruled out for week 2 already as well.
Yeah, so I think Harris and Carson are nice prices, and they're going to get so much volume.
I'm wondering if Harris is going to be. I'm already starting to see this on Twitter where people are, it's kind of one of those things where people are mentioning his name and then DFS Twitter's kind of like, all right, be quiet, like stop bringing it up. Like I want to play him because I think he's going to be low owned because everyone's going to feel burned by him.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get to that point where I just feel like his ownership's going to bloat over the course of the week. I do like him at this price, but I am wondering if everyone's high on him early in the week and then it kind of turns into a situation where his ownership ends up higher than the normal. Same thing with Zeke. I mean, this price is just too good. And I feel like people feel a little burned by his performance. You have to remember that nobody's going to perform well against Tampa. So it's just one of those situations. And then I think I really like David Montgomery this week. He looked pretty good on Sunday night. I like his price. I don't think the Bengals are going to keep him in check. So I like him at 6,100 and I may try to work him in. And then if you want to keep going down, one strategy that I might put in this week is I told you I really love Chubb. I just think the Browns are going to kill the Texans. I think it's possible they get up early and Chubb's a reason for that. And then they kind of ice the game in the second half with Hunt. So I'm going to get wild and I'm probably going to build some lineups around both Chubb and Hunt.
I like that. And the Browns, they're going to use both of them anyways. So Hunt's going to get his touches. I think that's interesting. I like that. If you keep going down, I got some plays that I really kind of like. Darrell Henderson, $5,700, too cheap against the Colts defense. I don't think is great. Henderson played 49 of the 52 snaps against the last matchup for them. He's really interesting to me. You got Damian Harris at 5,400, who seemed to be the workhorse back for the Patriots against the Jets defense. I think the Patriots are going to crush the Jets, so I like Harris in that matchup. And then Chase Edmonds at $4,900, played 40 snaps, had all the targets out of that Arizona backfield. And, at $4,900, I think that is a very reasonable price for him.
Yeah, I think our hunch was correct on Chase Edmonds. He's not the goal line back. We saw James Conner come in and kind of take some of that work. So there's a little bit of downside there. And again, Kyler Murray, we saw him rush one in. So with Edmonds, you're really hoping for kind of that long touchdown catch. He's not a touchdown dependent running back. So you're hoping that he catches a lot of passes too, but I think he's a fine play at that price.
Any other cheapy running backs that you're interested in at all? Elijah Mitchell, what are we going to do with him? $5,000 for the Niners.
Do you think he's viewed as like the free square play this week?
I'm wondering if it's so I've seen two things. One, like everyone on Twitter is, oh, it's Elijah Mitchell. And then everyone's like, man, I hope everybody plays Elijah Mitchell so I can play Trey Sermon. So it's like, what are we going to do here? I want to see some, we're recording this on a Wednesday evening. By Friday, Saturday, I want to see what the ownerships are looking like on that, because that is going to be super interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, right now, as of Wednesday, I don't see myself putting him in a lineup. I'd rather pivot to a Chase Edmonds. I think ownership's going to be high on Elijah Mitchell, but I don't know. Like you said, it might be. I was forced to go all in on him in our redraft league because I lost Mostert and I basically went 0 RB and was very, very thin at running back anyway. So I'm forced to play him. I had mentioned, there's a chance he's, this year's James Robinson or maybe Philip Lindsay from a couple years ago. I think there's as good a chance that he gets 5 carries next week and Shanahan is just an asshole and doesn't care about your fantasy team basically. So
yep.
For DFS, I don't know. I want to take on that risk. I may get him in a lineup or two just to see what happens, but around that price point, I think I may go Edmonds.
I'm right there with you. I just, my thing is Shanahan, you literally have no idea what he's going to do. Like, he could literally come out and split carries between God knows who at this point. So let's move on. We'll keep going here and we'll go on to wide receiver. Right up top, Deandre Hopkins, 8,000, the only receiver above 8,000. Then you go down, Diggs is 77, DK Metcalf 76, Ridley 75, Jefferson 74, Lockett 72, Thielen 71, Keenan Allen 7,000. If I'm playing Kyler Murray, I'm playing DeAndre Hopkins. He's a stud. Pretty simple. We already talked about how I like DK, and you said you would probably do the same. I think it's if you're going with a bring back Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen. Thielen had the 2 touchdown game. Where are you like in this range above 7,000?
Yeah, so I think you make a good point. If I'm only playing Hopkins if I'm starting Murray. Same thing with Diggs. I'm only playing him if I'm starting Allen. So just kind of stacking. Same thing with DK. Calvin, I may look at for kind of a bring back if I'm building around a Tampa stack. You brought up Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, but if I'm building a Cardinal stack, it might be tough to do this, but I almost want to kind of go Hopkins, Murray, Cook, and then you've got to you've got to really pay down in other spots. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like that, like quarterback, top receiver, and then top running back on the other side. I like that strategy. So that may be a lineup I look to build too.
Very nice. If we keep going down here, you get AJ Brown 6,900, Cooper at 68, Debo at 67, coming off a monster week, Godwin at 66, Michael Thomas at 65 on COVID, Deontay CD at 64, Jarvis 63 with Julio, A-Rob 62, Evans and Williams at 61. This is a super interesting price range for me. I think that I like CeeDee Lamb more than Cooper this week. Cooper got a little bit of a price bump. We talked a lot about that Dallas stack. I don't think there's an issue if you want to put both of them in your lineup. The other issue, and one as well talk about right now, is you got Cedric Wilson, who's $3,100, and Michael Gallup is out. Any preference on these Cowboys receivers? All of them, none of them, some of them?
Yeah, Cedric Wilson's going to be this year or this week's Marquez Callaway.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of, if you're going to work him into your lineup, I wouldn't feel like I'm being that different. I guess I don't think he's giving you any leverage. I think the only way he's giving you leverage is if you're literally playing all of the Cowboys wide receivers, where most people are only probably playing one or two. If you work him in and play all three of them,
Yeah.
I think your lineup may stand out a little bit. So he's definitely a guy I'm probably going to work in. If I'm picking one of them, it's going to depend on where I need to save. But I think, I don't know, my gut tells me to go with Cooper, but obviously he's more expensive. I love this price range for receivers this week. I mean, There's so many good options. The guy I'm looking to most is probably Keenan Allen at 7,000. He's going to be a guy, obviously, I work into. Like, my lineup is a bring back for the Cowboy stack, but I think he's going to be a guy that I plug into a lot of lineups too.
Yeah. I like Keenan Allen. I like Mike Williams for that matter too. 12 targets last week. I think that he's in a great spot. Again, that Dallas Chargers game is just so appealing for so many reasons. I don't think you can really go wrong. Next range, Cooper Kupp is at 6,000. It goes all the way down to 5,000 with Jamar Chase, who also had a good week. This is another range where I think you can find some guys in there, and I like DJ Moore at 5,900, and I actually like that Saints Carolina game a tad. Terrace Marshall, $3,300, super cheap. Ran a ton of routes out of the slot, had 6 targets. I think that's an interesting little combo right there, and potentially a cheap stack if you're looking into something like that. Any preference in that price range of guys you might like?
Yeah, I really like Cooper Kupp at 6,000. I feel like he's a little underpriced. Antonio Brown is 6,000. Nice too. It's just you run into that situation similar to playing the Dallas stack, where it's like, all right, which guy am I going to go with? Who am I fading? Who am I picking? So it's tough to do that with him. Not really anybody else I would say that I love in this price range. Brandon Ayuk with injury concerns. T Higgins is a fine play, I think, at 5,400. Corey Davis at 53, but I think those guys are going to be. I think their ownership is going to spike a little bit this week based on their games last week. Jacoby Myers at 51, I think, is a play if you need to go a little bit cheaper. And I'm curious about Jamar Chase. He had a breakout game on week 1. I wonder if his ownership is going to spike a little bit too.
Yeah, I think Jacoby Myers is kind of a sneaky little play. He had like 9 targets this past week, and you know that the Dolphins have good corners on the outside, but I think in the slot with Mac Jones throwing to him, he could be a nice little play right there. anything under $5,000. You mentioned Cole Beasley. I like him quite a bit. I think I just mentioned the Dolphins for the Patriots. Patriots are playing the Jets. The Jets stink. I was thinking already ahead to Cole Beasley. But Cole Beasley is playing the Dolphins, and he had 13 targets quietly last week. I could see him getting that same kind of volume, that kind of work. Allen trusts him. He gets open fast, and I think you could see a ton of targets again. It's just a matter of whether or not he can find the end zone.
Yeah, love him. Trying to decide if he's more of a cash play for me. Really like Hunter Renfrow at 36. I'm looking down that far. I think he's a guy that can catch 4 or 5 balls for 50, 60 yards. So should be able to pay off kind of that price pretty easily. And he's a guy that can get you a touchdown every now and then. It's tough in that offense because basically Derek Carr only has eyes for Darren Waller. So you don't know how many targets Renfrow is going to get, but he's a cheap play that I like.
Yeah, that is for sure. Like I said, the cheapest guy that I like is probably Terrace Marshall at 3,300. The 6 targets, playing out of the slot quite a bit, and he's somebody I was high on coming out of the draft, anyways. So he looked pretty good in his first week, and I think that'll stay. Any love for KJ Osborne with Minnesota? Pretty out of nowhere, had 9 targets, had 7 catches. I don't know how that is going to stay just with the way the Vikings usually are. It's usually Thielen, Jefferson, Cook. They usually don't invite a third party, fourth party in.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I feel like they spread it out pretty good last week. You saw Ty Conklin produce. Dalvin Cook had a decent game, so I feel like Cousins spread it out. I just, like you said, I think typically they're not that. I think it's more concentrated. I feel like that was kind of against the norm that game. So no, I'm not going to look at a guy like him.
I agree. All right, let's keep this thing rolling. Tight ends. Tight ends just basically just the worst thing ever. I just hate it every week. Darren Waller, 7,600. I mean, I'm not going to argue if you say you want to play him. The dude he had 19 targets, like 10 catches. What are you going to do? Like Kittle, 64, Pitts, 52, Gronk coming off of a big game. Goddard looks okay. I guess to me, there's a few guys. I mean, I'm not going to complain if you play Waller, but the guys that I'm looking at, Noah Fant, $4,200 at 8 targets. Tyler Higby played every snap at 4,100. I think everybody might want to play him though. And then the other one I like is Dalton Schultz in that Cowboys game, who might be, if everybody's going to Cedric Wilson, he might be that third option that is kind of sneakily going to get some targets. He had 6 last week with Michael Gallup still healthy, so I kind of like Schultz there to get a piece of that Cowboys game.
Yeah, I just can't do it with the Dallas Cowboys tight ends. I don't know. I can't get myself to ever do it. You never know where they're going to go. There's just so many better options in that offense. I love Tyler Higby this week. I know he's probably going to be a popular play, but I think he's a safe play. It's tough because I generally don't want to go like mid-range tight end. You never know what you're going to get there, but with him playing 100% of the snaps, I feel like there's a pretty safe floor. Normally the strategy I think is pay up or punt. This is doing neither of those things, but again, I just think there's a safe floor there. And there's not really a punt play that I love this week. If anything, I'd probably go back to Tyler Conklin at 3,200, but not really anybody else I love. Gerald Everett at 36, maybe. I thought he was going to have a better game. He caught a touchdown pass and then didn't really do much outside of that last week. So, yeah, tight ends are a crapshoot, man.
Yeah, they are. I guess one name, which I don't even know what this will do for you, but Farrell Brown from the Texans, 2,900, had 5 targets.
Who?
Exactly. Like,
yeah, no.
Exactly.
I have no idea who that is.
Exactly. I don't know. He is who knows?
Was he no, I was gonna say, was he a Rams guy before?
No, that was
Farrell
Cooper.
I was thinking of Farrell Cooper, yeah.
Yeah, which that was my whole thing the whole time. I kept looking stuff up and I'm like, there is not more than one Farrell that plays in the NFL. And turns out there was Farrell Brown and Farrell Cooper.
Who knew?
I did not until this week looking stuff up.
I don't know that Kyle Pitts did enough last week to earn the salary increase. So I'm going to stay away from a guy like him. Gronk, I feel like is priced pretty high. He caught 2 touchdown passes, but I'm not going to chase that.
No, me neither. No, like I said, tight end sucks. I'm either Darren Waller. The Patriots guys are interesting, but again, you just how do you differentiate that? I don't know. So I'll probably stick to Higby, Fant, Waller, something like that. If I'm looking at anything, Hayden Hurst maybe. I think he actually might be tight end 1. He's going to play a ton, 4 targets.
Yeah, Pitts is a receiver.
So I don't know if you want to get away from Pitts at that price tag and maybe be different if you think people are going to go there. But let's talk defenses. Defenses. Again, I usually just kind of see what I have left and put it in there. But if you're going to jam some defenses in, I love the Patriots this week at 3,700 going against the Jets. It's a rookie quarterback going against Bill Belichick. He usually just annihilates them. The Patriots have a good defense. They can get sacks. Mekhi Becton's out for the Jets. Their line looked bad in general last week. So you're thinking sacks, turnovers. I just immediately look to them. And then I like the Dolphins at 2,500 and the Cardinals again at 2,900. So those are a couple guys that are a couple of teams that are lower that I like.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Cardinals. Kirk Cousins is a statue. We saw what the Cardinals front was able to do last week. So I love that play if you're willing to spend up a little bit. And I like the Eagles this week. I think they have a great defensive line. So at 2,400, Jimmy Garoppolo, again, he's kind of a statue as well. So I think the Eagles are probably going to be where I end up like overweight on and going to the most. Below the Eagles, if I'm trying to cram people in at the top, I'm just going to pay down for the Texans at 2,000 and just pretty much know that I'm taking a 0 there. Maybe even worse, but I don't know if I'm going to go below that 2,400 Eagles mark this week.
I took my best lineup last week was with the Falcons at 2,000, and they got me a big old 0 too. So
I had a lot of Bills, Colts, and Falcons, and I think the best one of those scored like 3 or 5 points. So
yeah, defense is a crapshoot. Defense is crap. You got some baby toys talking to you or what?
I do. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You got a car over here talking to me.
Nice. All right, let's just kind of finish off the show. Maybe give me rank your top 3 favorite stacks for me. Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to say Dallas Chargers, probably just like everybody else's. I'm going to say Stafford, Cup, Higby for the Rams. And then I think my next one is going to be this is where the tough one. It's between Russ and the Seahawks, probably DK, Jalen Hurts and Devonta, or I think the next one might be Kyler and Hop for me. I think I'm going to be Cards. Cardinals will be my third one. So Chargers, Cowboys, the Rams stack, and then Cardinals stack. Those are my top 3.
I think I'm with you. So I think my top 2 are going to be both ways with the Cowboys, and then I'll probably do a Cowboy stack. I'll probably do a Chargers stack. And then for 3, it's tough. It's either going to be Philly, San Fran with like a Hurts, Smith, maybe Goddard, and then you know what? I don't know, because I kind of want to get Kittle coming back on that one. I'm not sure. It's tough right now. It's early in the week.
Yeah.
I do like the Arizona stack. I told you I want to play around and see if I can get a decent lineup with Kyler, Hop, and maybe Cook coming back, but that may be a little too pricey.
Do you think that like the ultimate galaxy brain move would be to stack the Vikings against the Cardinals, because nobody's going to do that? Everybody's going to be on the Cardinal side of it.
I will probably, if I'm doing a 20 max, I will probably throw that in.
Yeah,
that's the advantage to doing a tournament with that many entries, is you can kind of, I don't want to say piss away a lineup, but you can take a shot, with a lineup like that.
All right. Any closing thoughts for week 2 before we get out of here?
I haven't really dug in much, but seeming to be a little bit tougher to build lineups this week, and I think that's going to be the case going forward as they get better with their pricing. But I'm really excited to dig into it and see what I come up with.
tough decisions to make this way. I want your help. Put in the comments. Let us know. Are you taking the Cowboys stack? Are you taking the Chargers stack? Who's your favorite stack? Where you're going with that? I am Justin Dueppengiesser at JDiz1617 on Twitter. He is James Fitch at Fitchy24 on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at Ballin Over. I will have my DFS article out coming this week. So make sure you check that out as well. And we appreciate everybody being here. We'll talk to you later.